Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Talking Hoops. It is your new host, Coach Johnson, along with Ron Briscoe and Coach Mack. And we have Angel Martinez backstage behind the screen, covering for us on the back end. And I just want to start off by first saying, Happy New Year. We are
Happy
officially in
New
Happy
Year.
New Year.
2024. How was the new
Yes.
year for you guys?
Mine was
Hey,
kind of quiet, but that was a good thing.
mine was like this. You don't know, and you don't want to know. That's how good it
Wait a
was.
minute, Ron.
I will say one of I think my highlights of going into the new year so far, and Coach Mack, you brought this up earlier, is that the Pistons finally have broken their losing streak against a
Yes.
team I wouldn't have expected them to break their losing streak against.
Yes. Surprised by that. But what's funny are the bets that were placed against the teams. That's what was hilarious to me. But I'm glad for the Pistons. I'm glad they finally won. I think Wingstop was offering
Yeah.
food if they if they finally won. Pretty sure there was some happy customers, maybe not so much of happy employees. But hey, congrats to the Pistons.
Now,
Yeah,
what do you
I'm
think about
excited
it?
for him too.
What do you guys think about their future going forward for the rest of the season? I mean,
Ooh,
their coach, they're coached by a coach who has a great reputation as a former player and coach.
Yeah.
He's the second highest paid coach in the league right now. I
Hmm.
don't think that they have bad players. I just think that they have played bad together as a team. So,
Hmm.
what do you think that looks like for them going forward? I mean, you win your second game, or is that the third win of the season? I mean, it's still a lot of season left.
So let me
mm,
start off by
yeah.
answering that question for you. Uh, Monty, like you said, he's an excellent coach. Was a heck of a college player at Notre Dame, and you know, I think it's a combination of them not playing well together and a young team of players that most of them, you know, are just coming in and just getting the feel of what it's like to be a pro. So I think that they'll put it all together, and I think this year is probably going to be what they call a wash year, unless they just rattle off 10 to 15 games in a row, or maybe even 28 games in a row, but I doubt that. But anyway, I'd like to see them win more games, play together as a unit and make a better name for themselves because the Detroit Pistons are not that bad. It's just that it's a lot of young players coming in and trying to match together. And Marty's going to get them to where they can be winners in the future.
Oh yeah, Coach Mack.
Yeah, I agree with what Ron is saying. Obviously, team chemistry plays a huge role when it comes to being successful. And then you have new players that plays a role, and then with money being there, so they have a lot of hurdles that they're having to jump. So it looks rough now, but I am looking forward to seeing what their future will look like once they really get that team chemistry. Once they add a couple of more pieces, I would say. Um, because I'm pretty sure there's some talks about them trading some players in. I can't remember right off the top of my head who they're looking to trade in. But once they get the missing pieces and then actually get that chemistry, I think they're going to be probably a tough team. Just thinking off the top of my head, you got one of the twins, the Thompson twins. I think he's going to be a really huge key player for this team. Very good defensively. Obviously, this is his first year, so there's a lot of things that he's trying to figure out as well. But I think they're going to be good. It's just kind of ugly right now. um,
I think they're looking
but
for a
they'll
leader,
get there.
a leader
Yeah.
in the locker room, and not only in the locker room, on the court, and for the team. They really don't have that leader. And I thought Cam Cunningham was going to be the guy because he was the number one pick, and they had high hopes for him a couple of years ago. But he really hasn't turned out to be that leader as of yet. But hopefully he'll be able to you know find a way to become that leader to lead that team. And it's like Coach Mike said, they're going to make some changes and things like that. But when you have a leader in the locker room and a leader on the court and a leader for your team, things slowly change. And until Monty gets that on his team, hey, they're just going to be up and down.
About all of the great players that are no longer in the NBA right now and
Hmm.
playing overseas in different opportunities overseas. Now, is this a case of where you don't want to disrupt your young core? I mean, we saw a meme going around about Dwight Howard, Boogie Cousins. I think what Kimba Walker was on it, Isaiah
Yeah.
Thomas,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't remember who that
Mm-hmm.
fifth person was. But I can't really remember
Anybody.
that fifth person, but I mean, in these situations, when you have fans who speculate and look at that, and even the players themselves that say, "Hey, I know five guys right now that are NBA talent that
Hmm.
didn't get an opportunity to come back into the NBA this season, why aren't coaches and the office looking at these guys as
Hmm.
potentials where you can get them on a cheap contract, right? You don't even, because they're not in the league right now anyway. You can get
Hmm.
some production out of them for a minimal fee. And I'm even thinking about like guys like Avery Bradley, who was a part of the
Oh,
championship team in the
yes.
bubble. I mean, he's not even in the league right now.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
you
there's
have
a lot. There's a lot of guys that you can look at, and like I said before, you need some leaderships. You need some guys that are seasoned players that can come in and kind of help guide these guys, and come in and be a usable person for a short period of time, just to get it going, just to get to like, hey, this is the way you guys are supposed to do it, just to jail and get them together and get that confidence up. And you're right. And there was one thing that I was, me, I'm always trying to be funny. And I was going to say, well, Coach Mack and Coach T, y'all need to go up there and see what's going on in Detroit. Y'all may be able to get in the game. And but I didn't. I don't think I sent
I could be a
that.
sub.
But
listen.
I could be a sub. I could
I
be a
got
sub.
I got six hard fouls, okay, and I'm gonna make them count.
yeah,
I'm
you
gonna make
got.
sure they're count, and I'm gonna make sure they are worth it.
Well, just as long as you win,
Yes.
it's going to be good.
And we have a few comments here. We got some people tuned in and sharing the show, and I see my dad has made his appearance, and I'm sure my mom will be here soon. And Big Teddy Bear 1100 said, "Hi everyone, hello."
Hey, Teddy Bear, how
Hello,
you doing?
everybody.
So I
So
mean,
I want to bring up this the fact that we talked about Dwight Howard and Kimball Walker, which I think would be some really great pieces to add, specifically because they're veterans for one, and they have
mhm.
that
Right.
experience. I'm pretty sure there would be other logistic things that come along with it as far as pay and all this other stuff. However, considering that the situation that they're in, I think it would be a good idea to at least add those pieces, even if it's just, for temporary. But I don't know, but just to see those players not playing in the league at all is kind of alarming to me. And it's just, I don't know, it's just like what is the league going to when you have experienced players like Dwight Howard, who, in my opinion, is he really doesn't get the recognition that he does. I feel like his personal life supersedes his professional life, which is sad. But still, the work that he does, I mean, you got to give him to him. He produced. He's productive. So I don't know. It's just I hope to see them be able to come and actually be a part of it to help turn it around at least, or just anyone that is overseas that were veteran players that are not playing in the league at the moment.
I agree. I mean, Dwight Howard was a part of a championship team. He was
Yeah.
a part of the championship team. My only qualm with Dwight Howard that I had when watching him play is that in those earlier days, I felt like he just never took it serious enough, right? You're
Yeah.
over.
Mm.
Everything is a joke, and while I am a person that is a jokester, I think that there is always a time and a place, right? There's a time and a
Hmm.
place for you to get your jokes off, and in an NBA game where they're questioning, if you even belong on a team, and you're over there on the sideline doing push-ups and, cracking funnies, like you should be locked into this game. And then my second thing is, as you guys know, I'm a Shaquille O'Neal fan. There can only be one Superman, Dwight Howard. Okay. It's only, and that's the Diesel. I'm sorry, but it's not you, Dwight. It's not you.
I second that
Yes,
because I'm a
got to
I'm
give
a
it to Shaq.
Shaquille O'Neal because he's from LSU, so he went to LSU and he's been in the Bayou for a long time. So I second that.
Oh yeah. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the Pistons decide to do, and then what happens, like you said, Coach Mack, before trade deadlines.
Hmm.
If the Pistons might become the new NBA Siberia next to the Wizards,
Next to the Wizards, huh?
and they might be there for a while. They, like you said, it's a lot of youth on that team. It's a lot of youth on that team. But I think that them having one of the Thompson twins, I think they're definitely developing into some really great players, and especially for them
Hmm.
both to be in their rookie season, I think they're off to a great start. But definitely, like you said, Ron, they need some leadership in there.
Hmm.
They need to get you in there, Ron.
Yeah, hey, I'm just waiting.
Come
I'm
on,
waiting.
Ron.
I'm like the White Howard. I'm waiting for the call. Hey, just give me a call. I know my contract negotiations are going to be a little bit, up and down. But hey, I'll set out until I get the right price.
Speaking of leadership in young teams, I want to dive into the Spurs and
Woo.
what is
Ooh.
going on over there behind those locker room doors.
That's a good
You
question.
know, is it because Wemby is like the face of the Spurs, which is creating chaos for the other teammates?
It
Or
seems like it.
do they just feel like they're not being seen, period? So like why? I mean, first off, you guys are teammates, so why is there any kind of animosity going on?
Hmm.
But when you
Hmm.
have multiple plays, when the tallest player on the team, and I'm not talking about 6'8", 6'9", pretty much average height for the NBA. When you have the tallest player on the team wide open multiple times, literally have the opportunity to show you that he's open. I think I sent you guys a video when he was basically coming off the screen, pretending like he was dunking, and he was during the game and he was wide open. They still did not pass it to him. So it's like, come on, man! Like, what are you guys doing? Wemby, he's young. Yes, he is the face. Okay, can we accept it? But can we please be a team and be a team player?
I find
Yeah,
it
that's a,
really
that's a
interesting. Go ahead, Ron.
me too.
Because Coach
And
Pop,
that's
he,
go ahead, go ahead.
how is Coach Pop allowing this to happen?
That's another question too.
Yeah, I think that like Coach Mike said, in my opinion, there's a little jealousy, there's a little
Mm.
envy because he's the new guy on the block, and all the hoopla is around him, and a lot of people saying like he's a rookie. And if you don't remember, LeBron really had to go through the same thing. He can remember back that far, but LeBron was tough enough and athletic enough whereby he got through it by showing everybody what he could do on the basketball court, on the offensive end, on the defensive end. And the big thing, like I said before, is the leadership that he showed. So, Wim is not doing the leadership thing, and that may be hurting him. He may not be the guy that's coming in, taking over in the locker room and saying, hey, look, he knows that Coach Pop has gave him the keys to the team. He knows that, but he's not acting like it. And so that's why, in my opinion, he's getting a little bit of disrespect from his other teammates. What
Mm.
do you think, guys?
I mean,
Well,
go ahead,
well,
Coach Matt.
go ahead too. Well, what I was gonna say is it's interesting that you said that as far as him showing that he may or may not be a leader, but from just some of the things that I've heard many people say or coaches say that people lead in different ways. Some may be vocal,
Right.
some may not. Some may be more, expressive in different ways. And then women just maybe just not that particular person who feels like he needs to be the one to lead that team. It may be something that he feels like there are other veteran players who should step up and take up on
Hmm.
that leadership role, considering that, he is new, and which I can understand. But I also feel like, maybe Pop is allowing this to be a growing moment for Wemby, actually
Hmm.
using this to mold him, to shape him, to see what he really is made of, or just to really see how tough he can really be, or how he handles adversity, or just, a growing moment in general. But I don't know. I just think that the whole situation, the whole dynamic is interesting as far as, from a coach's perspective, from the team, from Wemby, and all the above, and just to kind of see how the season will end for them, and kind of what talks will be like after the season.
Yeah, that's a good point that you've just made.
That is a great point because from the coaching perspective, I didn't consider that maybe it is a challenge that Pop is putting him through and playing the long game, right?
Right.
They know the Spurs, let's be honest, they're not a top 8 team to be in the finals. I mean, in the playoffs, the competition is crazy right now. And unless they get some trades going or something happens, we know the chances of the Spurs being a competing team for a championship in the long run is not maybe in their cards right now. But what is in the cards is Wimby being the face of the Spurs and being able
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
be their franchise player. And this is a great way as a rookie to face some adversity early on that's going to challenge your leadership skills. It's going to challenge your growth and development in the NBA and how you interact with your teammates. Because me personally, at 7'4", I'd probably be tearing that locker room up. If you guys don't give me that ball at 7'4", you can't tell me much of anything. I mean, at this point, I don't know why we're drawing up plays. You see me open down there. It's
They're gonna
there.
get to the point that did you see that pit bull that just came through here?
You know,
But
and what
I think his confidence will play a role in that too. I don't think he has that level of confidence that he needs to have within himself just yet, which I believe plays a huge role as far as how he's responding to the situation. Because, like you said, T, I mean, you coming through this thing like a pit bull. We not having this. I know you see me wide open. So, we're gonna have this conversation, and this gonna be final. But
Yeah.
Wemby's not at that point yet. He's
no.
probably just not confident in himself or in his game at this moment for him to feel like that he can be vocal in that manner.
Well, how many foreign players have came into the NBA and really took over the game in the locker room? I don't think many have until they get used to the way that you know they learn the system and they got a little bit of years up under their belt. So let's give them a little time. And like you said,
Luca.
Coach Johnson, you know the San Antonio coach is probably letting him go in and fail and letting him see what it's like to be in the NBA and to kind of rough him up a little bit as far as saying, hey, this is the way it is in the league. You got to either come, you know, come with that heart or go home, and sit down. But it's a learning experience. And so we'll see what Pop has for the youngster. And hopefully this San Antonio team doesn't become a casualty of your Siberia category.
The clip that Coach Mack sent, I was like, this is crazy. I mean, he's rolling off the pick, which I don't even know why he's rolling off the pick. I would have stood right there on that block because you see me. And I mean, and when he extends his arm up, his hand is touching over the rim. I mean,
Oh
just
yeah.
throw it up. I mean, you guys don't.
Wow.
I'm watching the Spurs players. I watch one of their guards force a terrible shot trying to split
Hmm.
two defenders on a spin move
Hmm.
while Wimby is standing under the basket like this.
Hmm.
And his man,
At the rim.
he doesn't even see his man. His man is down here. He's not even looking, ain't not even worried about his man. And they still
Hmm.
forced it. So, it'll be interesting to see, Ron, like you said, because right now the energy that they're giving, it is a lot of envy, and I don't understand for a team that hasn't really been winning the past few seasons, you finally get
Hmm.
a player
Hmm.
that can really help you win some games and you're
Hmm.
salty about it. That
Hey, that's
just
life, man. That's life.
these are not winners, Ron. These are not
Right.
winners. I can't. These are not winners. That is a scrub mentality. That is
There's, a,
Yeah.
scrub mentality.
there's that pit bull coming out of
Yeah.
her.
The competitor in me, it's even hard to just watch, right? It's just difficult to watch as a competitor, to watch him go out there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I just even, oh my gosh, and he doesn't demand for the ball. I will be looking forward to seeing that growth from him, of where he's at the point where he's demanding for the ball. He's looking for that.
Hey, Coach Johnson and Coach Mack, I know that Coach Johnson, one of your things that you had talked to us about in our group chat is the who's going to be the face of the NBA. And I know Whammy is one of the guys, but you also want to talk about Ja Moran. So you can start off and let us know what your
Ja.
feelings are about that.
Yeah, well, Ja Morant, I it's really a love-hate relationship, because
Really?
it is. Like, I love his game. I think he is must-see TV, right? He
Mhm.
is the guy you want to watch. He's got all the athleticism, and he's got the fancy moves, and but still within his game. It's not like he's playing outside of himself to be fancy,
Mhm.
and that's all within his game. But I think for Ja, who I would have said maybe last year, before all of, the scandal with the toting of the gun happened, that he would have been a candidate. But he has a stain right now that is
Right.
attached to his name. And I don't know how
Mm.
much time that's really going to take to get that stain from following him, right? It's going to be a while. It's going to be a while. But he has this stain, and it's unfortunate because he is a player that could be the face of the NBA. He
Yes.
he, he is, but you almost have to kind of put him off to the side right now. I can't put him in the running right now, because it's
Mhm.
like, Ja, you got to get you got to get some screws tightened up first. You got
Yeah,
to.
and you're right about that. You know, he's got to mature, and he's got to get out of hanging out with the wrong people in the gang. And I know his dad in the last couple of weeks have been talking to several reporters about changing the people that are in his circle so that he can like, hey,
Mhm.
I don't need to be bothered with this guy. He's not right for me. I need to get myself where I am that brand because there's a changing of the guards. LeBron is just slowly going out the door. It may be sooner than later. I know he's trying to say he's waiting on his son, but with the condition of his son's health, you never know if he'll be able to get in the NBA and play for a while, and if LeBron can hold up that long. So you got you got Wimby and you got Job, and everybody thought that Zion was going to be one of the vocal points of being that guy that was going to be the face of the NBA. But it's sad to disappoint you, but I don't think that he has the mentality to even you know chess up to becoming one of those faces of the NBA. I mean, he had a great game. They beat the Lakers today, didn't they? Oh, I forgot to mention that, Coach Mike. I know you're a big Laker fan, but they beat the Lakers in New Orleans on New Year's Eve. But anyway, and he had a pretty good game. But once again, he probably bellied up to that table and started eating right after that game, and he really didn't show anything as of late. But hey, that's the Pelicans for you. One day they blowing people out by 25 points, and the next day they're getting beat by 25 points. So what do you have to say about that?
First off, really quick, I just want to send a shout out to my grandparents for tuning in. We
Hey,
appreciate
Granny and
you.
Grandma.
Sweet.
Hope you guys enjoy the
That's
show.
so sweet.
And Ron, you know how I feel about my Lakers right now, Ron.
I
I'm
do. I want to hear it. I want
you
to hear
the inconsistency. The inconsistency is just it's hurting. It's hurting me.
it.
And I did see that they brought LeBron, they're moving LeBron to the point guard. And if you all
Yes.
remember, he's
Yep.
averaging 26, 9, and 7 at the point spot. Throwing that out there for you, Ron, talking about LeBron's on his way out.
Oh, slap me on the other side
That's
now. Come
that's
on,
for
come on. I
you,
need it. I
Ron.
need it. I need it. I need
Because
it.
26, 9, and 7, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I'm these young guys, they can't stop LeBron still.
They cannot stop
So
LeBron.
Yep.
I think that they have to work on consistency, and I'll be interested to see who they add to the team before the trade deadline. It's been
Me
some
too.
it's been some chats. It's been some chats, and we see a message from Barry saying with Chet sitting out last year, having a chance to redshirt due to injury, I thought he'd be rookie of the year. His team is playoff bound. Wimby will have to earn it. Mm.
Wow. True. 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 That's a
Ja,
good point.
Steph, Zion, Wimby are my must watch. But are they the face? That's the next question. Are
Well,
they
Steph
the
is getting
face?
long, a little bit long in the tooth too. But I mean, he's still holding his own better, and power injuries. But let's look at Golden State. Golden State is not the team that they once were. Clay Thompson is definitely not, back on his game, and we
I
all know what the problem is with Mr. Green, the Power Ranger, as Coach Mike would say.
Oh
But
goodness, that guy.
anyway, anyway, that's just the way I see it. What do you guys think about those guys?
So
I
I want to touch on Golden State for a second,
Okay,
because
okay.
they're obviously an interesting team for me. But you guys know I've been following G League, and so one of my players, I like to call them my players, have been called up from the G League, which is Brandon Podziemski. I'm loving his game, and he's definitely, I think, in the starting lineup now for the Golden State Warriors. So he's definitely adding to the team. So I'm loving it. And then as far as Steph. Man, Steph is like wine. Like the older he gets, the better he's becoming. I mean, he's like in
Hmm.
great shape. His shooting is better. Like, how can you improve from what you've already been doing? And you are already a great shooter. So, like, even with that, like that's continuously improving. And let's not forget, Steph is what, 35? Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
he's
Steph
up
is
there. He's
35.
getting long in the tooth. Yeah,
So
he is.
yeah, he's up there, but you kind of forget that he is up there because for one, he looks so young, and two, the way that he's playing is like you kind of put him a lot younger than LeBron. So I think
And
people
coach,
kind of
coach,
forget that part too when it comes to Steph. Like he's up there as well.
Coach, let me say this. That's the reason why when I went down to see him when I worked with Nike, I lost him because he looked so young. He looked like a little kid when I went. I was like, this guy's not going to be able to make it in the NBA. We don't want him. He looks like a little 13-year-old boy. And so he fooled me. So
Yes.
he's fooling a lot of people now in the league, like you said, by looking so young, but he's still, like you said, it's like fine wine. He's got that smooth stroke, his
Yes.
fundamentals, and it just rolls right off the fingertips. And he kind of tells the guy, like, I don't know why you came over here. It's going in. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
So that's
Now, a
great.
question, Coach Mac, a question, since you are highlighting the Warriors, I want to get you guys' thoughts on Clay Thompson. Now, are
Oh,
we viewing Clay as being a wash, or is it maybe attributed to something else?
I wouldn't say that he's a wash just yet. I feel like Clay is going through some kind of funk right now, which happens, with players, with shooters, especially shooters, because it's more mental than anything else. Clay has had to deal with injuries. That takes a lot to try to come back from. And then on top of just trying to get back in a groove of everything. But he had a really good game. What was it, last week or week before last? So I see that the potential, the opportunity, the fire is still there. It's just he's just got to get through some things mentally to get back to the old Clay that he used to be. Now, I know there has been talks about possibly trading him. I'm kind of scared about how that will be for him. I don't know if, if that will just really build him up or if it will tear him down because he's been at Golden State for, gosh, I mean, however many years he's been in the league. So I'm just kind of concerned as far as how he would feel about that, how he would transform after that. Would he become a better player? Would he get worse? Would he end up overseas? So Clay, there's a huge question mark behind him, but I just
Hmm.
wouldn't necessarily say that he's a complete wash just
Hmm.
yet.
Hmm. How about you, Ron?
Well, I think injuries have a lot to do with Clay, and I think that he's just trying to be a person that's trying to get back in the groove, and that's tough to do when when you just you get a little bit older and you're coming from a couple of injuries that you were out for a long time. You try real hard, and you probably re-injure those injuries, and they're not mending back like they should. And for a guy who's been a ball player and who's been hurt, I can understand. You think you back, and all of a sudden you make that move and you're feeling good, and all of a sudden you take that shot and make that turn, and you re-injured that injury again, and it just takes you a while to recover from that. It takes a little longer, and it weighs on your mind.
Yeah,
So
Ron.
yep, it really weighs on your mind. So like you said, Coach Mack, he's going through, a little drama here with himself. And also, having that Power Ranger on this team, is kind of also making things not become a complete team. But
Yeah.
still, they got like you are now our guru on the G League, Coach
Hmm.
Mack, and so that they have some young players coming in. Hopefully, he will contribute and be able to, step in and help Clay out until he gets himself back together. Unless they want to just take him down to the G League and get him well, just like they did the Chicago Bulls. The California guy,
Zach Levine. Levine.
Levine.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he is
Hmm.
doing right now to get him back in shape because of his injuries. And I think he had the same injuries that Clay has.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, so it,
Hmm.
it takes a while to get back, and sometimes you got to go down. And Clay might not want to go down to the G League,
Yeah.
but I mean,
I
Mm.
can't
I don't see
I
why
can't
not.
count Clay out. I'm going to say my perspective on it is that we have to remember this is the same person who scored 50 with three
Yes,
dribbles.
Hmm.
So I
yes,
can't attribute it to his some it's his game. I Watching him, it is visibly mental for me. I think from a psychological standpoint, he has not gotten his confidence back to trust in his body with
Hmm.
those injuries. Like you said, Ron, just when you think you're back, you kind of hesitate on it. You might feel some pain here and there, but I think the hardest part about battling an injury and coming back from an injury is mentally allowing yourself to trust your body to do what it's going to do and to play your game. And
true.
I watched him make a turnover in transition. Very, it's one of those like that you see in kids basketball almost, and it looks like it's just from thinking too much. And then,
Hmm.
another factor that a lot of players didn't have 20 years ago is social media.
Right.
And
Hmm.
the pitfalls of social media, Ron, imagine you log on and you just want to go see what your friends are up to, and you see all these things about you being washed up and you not being a good player anymore. And now
Hey, hey,
you're
hey, be nice
you,
now.
ex- and you have people who are sitting behind a computer screen or their phone saying some really nasty things about you, and now you have to factor that into how you have to ignore that, block that out. They didn't have to worry about that 20 years ago. They just got to heal in peace. They just got to
Yes,
come back from
Hmm.
injury in peace, you know, without all the
that's right.
extras. So I think we're really seeing that, just kind of the entire effect take place on
Hmm.
Clay. But I'm not a Warriors fan because they took 3 rings from LeBron. But
Ah, here she
but
go on that wagon.
but I will say
She really said they took it.
they
Yeah,
took
she
it.
said they took it. They
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 took
took
it.
it.
They took 3 rings from him.
Just like Angel stole her, they
Yeah,
stole them
yeah,
rings.
now, Ron, they stole those rings. Okay, I was being nice by saying they took them. Oh, that is hilarious. But
You was
you
something
know,
else, boy.
as a basketball player, I do want to see Clay come back, and I want to see him come back as strong as he was before he went out. And so, we are wishing Clay the best in his healing
Hmm.
process and his journey to come back. But I do have another question for you guys that I decided not to ask in the chat. But me and Mr. Johnson were having a great debate earlier today,
Hmm.
and the question
Uh-oh.
was, can an overseas NBA player be the face of the NBA?
I don't see why not. I don't see
Hmm.
why not. If that player can play and can come in and contribute and can be a person that's marketable and his team's winning and he has that cred, I don't see why not. I mean, you've seen guys come in from all different leagues
Hmm.
and make it. So I mean, if you got to come in, even from if you come in from college, you know, and you make it in the NBA, hey, you're going to be the face of the league. It's just your athletic ability, the way you can market yourself, the way you carry yourself as a professional. Yes, I think anyone can do it if they put their mind to it.
Okay, Coach
One
Matt.
person that comes, yeah, one person that comes to mind to me is Luca. I definitely think he would be the one if we were to talk about like current players that are from overseas that are playing now. Luca will
Definitely.
probably be my guy that could be the face of the NBA. And can and still have the opportunity to be in the face of the NBA. He's definitely up in the conversation with a lot of the great players that are, up there now. So I don't see why not. I do think it will happen eventually, just not for sure when it will happen, but I do think it will happen.
Now, would you consider Giannis to be in that kind of realm of he could be a potential player that's from overseas that could be the face of the NBA?
Yes, I do. I
I do
see
think
that. I mean,
so. Um,
yeah.
but I look at it this way because in if that's kind of a complicated question, and I'm saying that because of the way the players carry the team.
Hmm.
How do they
Hmm.
carry the team? All right, because are we bringing in players to help them win, or are they actually that player that can bring that team to a championship? So
Hmm.
again, Luca, although my Mavs, we got to get past certain rounds. We still trying to get past certain rounds, but
Hmm.
at least we getting to that point. Now with Milwaukee, not so much to that extent, but I'm still going with Luca. I do think there's a possibility with Giannis, but I'm still gonna hold true to Luca on this one.
I might have something controversial to say for you, Coach Mack.
Oh,
I'm
go
listening.
ahead.
I got a little something controversial, but I don't know if Luca is going to ever be able to get over the hump to be an NBA champion.
Hmm.
That's the problem. That's the Mavs. That's the
And
hump
I
we
don't,
cannot get over.
but is it a, I just don't, and don't get me wrong, Luca is a great player. He's an outstanding basketball player, high basketball IQ, but is is he Dirk Nowitzki? Is he Dirty
Hmm.
Dirk? Can he get
Mm,
his team to a championship? I mean, and it's been a few seasons now. And last season they had a chance in terms of with their playoff series. I thought they had a chance to advance maybe further than they have in a really long time, and they didn't. And it just makes me wonder, okay, you can be a great player. You can have 40,
Hmm.
50 point games. That's great. But what is a 50 point game if your team is still if your team is losing? And not only that, but if
Hmm.
they're losing by 15, 20 points, that 50 points means absolutely nothing. Can you play some defense? Can
well,
you get a stop?
so with that, Dirk, in my opinion, had better players surrounding him.
Mm,
That's just that. Not to knock off the players that are with the Mavs now. I mean, like I like Tim Hardaway and stuff like that, but Tim Hardaway is not Jason Kidd. Tim Hardaway is not, some of the other great players that have come from other teams that have played with the Mavs. So, with that being said, Can Luca be like Dirk? Maybe if he was surrounded by some of the same talent as Dirk, I can see that
Okay.
happening. But
Okay.
without that, no, 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 no.
What about with the addition of
We're
Kyrie?
not surrounded. Well, Kyrie has he's I will say he's been holding up for the most part. He's been happy. Let's say that Kyrie is happy, um, and he's doing his part. But there's still we still just don't have enough. We
Mm.
have they're not really role players, but in a sense they're like role players. So
So you feel like the
we
talent
still
could be
need
a little bit better.
yeah. I mean I don't want to call them average, but it's average. So
It
it's
it
not
is. It
where we
is.
need to be.
It is.
Ah,
But
yeah.
I just don't know if I see Luca leading a team to a championship. And that is the controversial statement that I have, is that even if you add some of these players around him, I just don't know. I don't know. There's some people that have it and there's just some people that don't. And
Hmm.
I just don't know. And oh, we have a comment. James Harden is the face of the league. Well,
Oh,
I
the
will say,
system.
not
Yes,
the
with the
Oh,
system.
laughing out loud emotion.
Yeah. He's the face of the Clippers, that's for sure right now. The way that they
well, he
have
has
been
been.
steamrolling.
Yeah, they have been playing well as of late. They really have. You
They
know,
have.
Leonard has put it together from some injuries, and who's the other guy? Paul
George, mm-hmm.
George.
Yep.
George has really done well, and my boy has just kind of like Westbrook has been up and down, but he's been consistent. But I got to give it to him. James Harden has been a good guy.
Yeah, and a quote from Barry: Luca smiles and shows personality. Giannis is like KD, Kobe, Kareem, all business. He wins, but doesn't look like he's having fun. He's working.
True,
Mhm.
true. He does have that. He does have that
So let
warrior
me
face.
let me say this because I had to look up the roster for the championship team. You know, I had to research this. So I'm looking at
Yeah.
the roster for that Mavs team, and you had players like and let's say this. I'm gonna say this about this first player, JJ Barea.
Oh yeah.
First
Yeah.
off, they didn't have an answer for JJ. So you got players like JJ Barea, Tyson Chandler. You had Jason Kidd,
Ooh.
Sean Marion.
Mm.
You had let's see who else. Stojakovic, Jason
Ooh.
Terry. So you see what I mean about the players that were surrounding Dirk versus what we have now. Like the talent is not the same.
So would you say
So
Luca's a better player or is Dirk the better player?
they're
I'm saying
different. I
Dirk. I'm
wouldn't
saying
say
I'm
either
saying
one of
Dirk's a
them are
better player
better.
overall.
Hey,
In my
dirty
opinion,
Dirk. Dirty
in
Dirk.
my
I mean,
opinion, Dirk
Dirk
was a better
is.
player.
And why, Ron?
Yeah, I mean,
Would
you
you
can give
say
it.
Well, Dirk was the type of guy that, in my opinion, he was just a taller version of Larry Bird.
hmm,
Okay, Dirk
Yeah,
could
I can see
Dirk could
that.
score. He could put it on the floor. He had outstanding footwork. He was a good passer. He was quick enough to smaller players on the basketball court. Uh, he was a rebounder at both ends on offense and defense, and you couldn't leave him when he caught the ball. And he had some great up and under moves and fall
Hmm.
away moves with that one leg up, his style and profiling as he tell you like you too late. It's going in. So that's the reason why I really like Dirk. And I remember seeing Dirk when he first came over in the U.S. and he played in the USA Hoop Summit, which was in San Antonio, Texas. My first time ever seeing him. Everybody's talking about this Dirk Nowinski. So I had a chance to see him, and the 7-footer put on a show, and he was the MVP, and the rest is history.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so let me say this, and I feel like I don't know why I feel like I'm defending Luca, but anywho, okay, so let me
Because
say
you like
this.
him. That's why. Because
yeah,
you like him.
you
That's
you
why.
you're a
No, I
fan.
really do
You're a
like Luca,
fan.
but
What
no,
you
well, it's
need
not that. It's
defending
just I don't
then?
feel like No, I just don't feel like he should be disregarded. And I say that because, for one, he's a lot younger than Dirk, and the
Hmm.
numbers that he's producing now is way more than what Dirk has done in his entire years in NBA. So Luca still has a lot of upside to him. He still has a lot of growth to come. So
Yes.
again, I still wouldn't. Now, Dirk, like you said, Dirk is a lot faster. Everybody knows that Luca is slower.
Slow.
Luca got some
Mhm.
baby fat. Let's just be real. But
He got
and
cement shoes.
Dirk, yeah, he got a little baby fat, but that's okay. He's loving good. That's all I can say. He got a lot of love around him.
He's what? He's loving good. I like
He's
that
loving
word.
good. He got a lot of love around him. And then as far as defending, yeah, I definitely give that to Dirk. But now if you're talking about footwork, passing, shooting, like Luca and Dirk, Dirk shot was different in a way that his fadeaway shot was his signature shot.
Hmm.
So yeah, I still feel like eventually Luca could get there. He's just still young, and I think a lot of people forget how young Luca is, and comparing him to players such as Dirk in their prime time, and Luca obviously is still a baby for the most part.
That is a great point. That is a great
And
point.
and
Speaking
and
of
this
babies, oh, go ahead,
let,
Ron.
let me add this, and
Hmm.
I'll be real quick. You're right. And since you have the stats and everything on the Mavericks, look how long it took Dirk to win
Oh
a
goodness.
NBA championship. How many
Yep.
years? How many years was he in the league
Goodness.
before he won one? So
Hmm.
Whew.
that's what you have to
Jesus.
also look at. So he may be
Yep.
right on schedule. Luca may be right on schedule with Dirk. So hey, let's just be patient and see
That's
what
true.
happens.
And it's not an easy feat winning a championship. I mean, we have
No.
some I think some of top 20 players, how many don't have a ring, you know,
Hmm.
when you think
Yeah.
about it. And for example, just Allen Iverson, that one broke my heart. I was a big AI
Ooh.
fan. I had the jersey, the shoes. I was an AI fan, and
You was AI, wasn't you?
no, no, Ron. As a kid, I was Shaq. I was Shaq as a
Oh,
kid.
Wait,
that's where
how?
you that's where you messed up. That you should have been
Where
AI.
did that even come from?
I, Coach Mac, I used to be the tallest kid. I was the one
Oh,
that
that's right. Okay.
I'm here and everybody else is like here. And it was like that for a long time growing up. So I was actually a post
Okay.
player. I was a post player. I played the
Okay.
four until I was going into my junior year of high school. I took that
Okay.
spring, summer off from track and I started training. I'm talking about pretty much every day that summer. I was driving all over California getting workouts in. One of my dad's childhood friends actually trained and coached overseas players, college players, high school. And so I started working out with him. And after that, I went from the four to the point guard that very next season. So that is
Okay.
how I ended up. So I went from Shaq to AI. So I kind of went backwards.
Okay. Okay. I get it
But
now.
speaking of players, just it's really hard to one get in the league, let alone be an impact player, and then turn
Hmm.
that into a championship. I mean, that is it's not an
Mm-hmm.
easy feat. So Luca still has plenty of time. He is just he's a young buck, and
Mm-hmm.
he has time to get some better talent around him that can elevate him to that next level. But speaking of babies, Coach Mack, I wanted to dive into your G League babies and
Yeah.
how
Yay.
they are coming along with the new salary increase. If you could speak a little bit about that and just give us some G League updates because there's a lot of exciting stuff happening over there.
So yeah, my G League babies, those are my babies. But what was heartbreaking to me was the salary, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like. But then this is only for a few months, so I have to remember that too. But still, we're talking about 35,000, and then they finally got an increase to 40,000. That's cap. So there's like nothing beyond that unless they're on a two-way contract, and I think even if they were to be on a two-way, they can get up to 500,000, which is still change considering
Mhm.
the NBA. But the thing that's just like most concerning to me is that you have so many players that get called up from the G League to the NBA. So we're looking at about
Hmm.
49% of players from G League that get called up, but yet they're still making pennies.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And one thing that I did notice when I went and watched the Legends play, and you can definitely tell there's a difference somewhat for the most part as far as the talent level when it comes to G League and NBA. Because obviously just some of the errors that are being made, just some of the decisions that should be made and are not that you would see on the NBA level. But even within, you still have a lot of talented players that can probably come in and do a lot better job than some of the NBA players, which
Hmm.
I feel like that's one of the main reasons why there's so many that's being called up
Hmm.
in such a short period of time. Obviously, I told you one of my favorite players is Brandon, which is with Golden State. I did get a chance to watch Oscar Sheetway play. He plays for the Mad
Hmm.
Ants, which they are the number one ranked team right now.
Mm.
G League salary increase. Yep. So yeah, so the Mad Ants, and I think they played either today or yesterday. My
Hmm.
days are running together, but he's doing really well. And just to see the numbers that a lot of the players are producing, you got a lot of players that's averaging, I'll say, about 30 something points. And then when they do get to the NBA, those numbers kind of decrease. So that
Hmm.
Hmm.
kind of tells you the disparity as far as the level of talent between the two.
Hmm.
Another interesting thing that I want to bring up about the G League, I sent you guys about the 17-year-old who's actually from West
Mm.
Dallas, who's
Yeah,
playing with the G League Ignite.
yeah,
Yes. So you got the 17-year-old, he's 17-year-old, and then there's another player too, he's 19, who
yeah.
I think will be playing for the same team. So to see them coming in this way as a feeder is what I like to call them. They're coming in as a feeder to get trained for the NBA. We saw Scoot Henderson did the same thing. You see how well
Hmm.
he's doing with Portland.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I'm loving the transition coming from G League to the league and watching these players develop, which is what G League stands for,
Hmm.
going into the league.
You know, what I find interesting about the G League, for them to start allowing that pathway to open up for young guys to come in and not have to, go through any type of college before coming in, it almost makes you
Mm-hmm.
wonder, was this a push to compete with them from going overseas? You have guys like Terrence Ferguson, who
Yep.
used to play for OKC. Straight out of
Hmm.
high school, he went to Australia. They paid
Hmm.
him maybe probably 100,000, if not close to it.
Hmm.
At 18 years old, that's a lot of money. Of course, you're going to
Hmm.
choose the money
Mm-hmm.
most times out of going to school. And it was a direct feeder for him to go into the league. And so now
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're starting to see the NBA and G League and even NCAA start making some changes and allowing, some rules to kind of be mixed up a little bit so that they can compete for this talent.
Coach, I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad you mentioned. I'm glad you mentioned the NCAA. I'm glad you mentioned the overseas and the G League, and of course, Coach Mack. I'm glad you mentioned the high school player, Dink Plate, the 6'8" guard from
Mm-hmm.
Pinkston High School out of Dallas, Texas. Now, I don't know if the head basketball coach is still there at Pinkston High School, Coach Washington, but he was the type of guy that always wanted guys that had a lot of talent to skip college and go into the NBA. Another guy from Pinkston High School who did that was the name Tony Mitchell. I
Mm,
don't know if you remember this guy. Tony Mitchell was at Pinkston High School, McDonald All American, went to play at North Texas, and then he went into the NBA. Didn't last long, but he went in. He's probably overseas right now. Another guy that was at Pinkston High School, who originally came from Little Rock High School, was Randolph. Uh, his first name right now escapes me, but he played at LSU for a couple of years. But he transferred from Little Rock in high school to Dallas Pinkston, and after 1 year there, he went into LSU. Then he went into the NBA. But his college coach pushed him, pushed all of those guys to go into the NBA, which is very interesting. But anyway, you're right. The farm system that's going on with the G League is really pushing a lot of guys up that are not making a lot of money so they can be motivated and push themselves to make a lot of money. And that's what I like about the system is that
Mm-hmm.
you got a lot of guys in the NBA that making a lot of money but are not putting out the product on the floor.
mm,
And the
mhm,
fans are seeing that.
Yep.
mhm,
Okay. So Yeah, keep
Mhm.
bringing those young guys in, or those guys that are hungry enough that are going to go in and give you your money worth.
Yes.
Because the average NBA
Yep.
arena sells out at 17,000 people every event that they play in. Okay, so when you have a an NBA team, and look, let's look at the average ticket price, and we can also compare this with the WNBA. But let's look at the average ticket price for an NBA game. It's $95, $94 a game. The average ticket price for a WNBA game, $47.
Mm.
Mm.
And when you're talking about sellout, the average attendance for a WNBA game is 5,000 people. But hey, it's going up
Mhm.
It's
because
going up.
the all-time viewers for the WNBA was just this past season when the Aces won. Okay, but let's take a look at the
Mhm.
NCAA on the women's side and on the men's side. The women's NCAA tripled of what the WNBA did as far as viewerships and attendance last year. Okay,
Yep.
so it made a big difference that
Mm.
the NCAA men's and women's are making a ton of money. Okay, now the average budget for the NBA is $10 billion. Okay, and the average budget for the WNBA is $60 million. Look at the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So
Mm. Mm.
the WNBA has a lot of work to do, but they're getting better. But it's almost like the NBA, who owns the WNBA, is using them as a piggy bank. And they're saying, we're going to take $10 off of
Mm.
you guys and put it in the NBA and give y'all one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Until y'all are able to sustain yourself and make a revenue where we don't have to, be bothered with it. And of course, the WNBA is all upset about it. That collective bargaining is like, hey, we throwing this out the window. We need to get paid more money, which they do because the highest paid WNBA player makes what, $200,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
what a
Candace
big
Parker.
difference. Yeah, it's just like 80-20 going on. So that is something to look at because Coach Mack, I knew that when you threw that out at us, you know, in the when we was doing the little chat, you
Mm-hmm.
threw that out
Chat.
at us. You
Mhm.
threw that out at us. I knew what you was going for because you was like, they are not making enough money in the WNBA. Look at all this money the NBA guys are making. And look at the money we make, and that's the reason why. But I really think
Mhm.
that Angel Reese is making $1.7 million at
Mm.
LSU. Okay, and she's making more than the highest paid player in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark
Mhm.
is making
Oof.
$750,000 right now at
Mm.
Iowa. And I know you want to touch on her too.
Mm.
And the next player that's making a lot of money is another girl that plays at LSU. I think it's Felicia Jackson or Johnson. She's making like $1.1 million. So
Mm.
they're making more money in college than they're making in the WNBA. So it's very interesting
Yeah,
that
I
you
would have
said that
probably red
about
shirt this year.
that.
I would have probably had to red shirt this year. Like, hold on, I need one more year of
One
this
more
because
year.
I need one more year. But it's really interesting to see and how they're making this money in college. How can you incentivize these girls to want to come play in the WNBA? It'll be very interesting to see, like on the men's side, if we start seeing some developmental leagues and some other leagues that start
Mhm.
to come up to compete with the WNBA. And we had some breaking news about the TBL, which you guys will be able to catch soon. The TBL
Okay.
season starting in March here on Broad Street South Network, where myself and Angel Martinez will be hosting a talk show and covering games and going over the new TBL Super League. But Freddie Zamora, a coach from the TBL League who coached and had a successful season there, just got pulled up to the G League. And so here
Hmm.
we're seeing on the
Nice.
men's side, we're starting to see leagues that are starting to feed into other leagues, right? We're starting to just see the development and growth for men's basketball, and I hope to see something like that for the women's side happening sometime soon. Because like you said, you're making 1.2 million in college to go into the WNBA as a rookie and hope that you can make 50,000.
Hmm.
Mm.
It's just, it's not feasible, and we'll see though. Like you said, Ron, viewership is up and people are tuned in, and you're starting to see more care about women's basketball here in the States. Because really, when I was overseas, this was not a thing. This is not a thing. Like, I feel that one of the things that we face over here is the lack of exposure of women's sports. And that's
Hmm.
what makes us think that people aren't interested in watching it. Well, if you ask a random stranger on the street, they probably couldn't even tell you when the WNBA league starts or when it finishes.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's not because they're not watching TV or they're not on their phones or on social media. It's the lack of media attention and exposure. Where are the commercials? We see NBA commercials. How often? How often do you see an NBA player in a commercial on regular television?
A bunch.
Yep.
All the
A
time. When
bunch.
have
Yep.
you
All
seen a
the time.
WNBA player? When have you seen Lisa Leslie, Candace Parker, Cheryl Swoops, Don Staley? Like,
Only when the season's going on.
only
But
when
not
this
much.
Yep.
Yeah, but
The
not much. But
season
only when the
or
season's
about
going
to
on.
start.
are about to
Or when
start.
they're playing in a game doing that broadcast.
Exactly. And so, just it's the lack of exposure. Overseas, you go to a bar, from my personal experiences, and out of 6 TVs, 3 of those are going to have women's sports playing.
Really?
It's not. Oh yeah, oh yeah. And for example, like in Australia, netball, if you all are familiar with netball is a very popular sport there. It's a combination of basketball, a little bit of volleyball. It's a very interesting sport. I recommend anybody who hasn't heard of it to go look it up. But when I
Hmm.
tell you, they are go hard about their ladies in netball. Oh, they love it. They love it. You When it's in season, you'll catch it at the bar. You can go to the bar, watch it on TV. Same with the WNBL, which is their version of the WNBA. When the
Hmm.
game's on, when it's season on, oh, they really rally behind their teams. They love going to the women's games. It's really a family oriented event. But they show up and show out for women's sports. So, we would love to start seeing that here and start getting some support around the women. But as we are now starting to enter into a little bit of bonus time, I just wanted to, one, say that in conclusion, that I do think Coach Mack, circling back to the G League salary, I did want to comment on that about the
Go ahead.
40,000 that they've received, and how a G League player is making more than a WNBA player that is on roster and plays.
Yep. Yes.
What
Yes again.
How soon, from both of you, as my last question for the two of you, how soon do you all see a change being made
For G League or WNBA?
for the WNBA? When do you think that is
Ooh.
something that we'll see? And we see Mr. Johnson saying he hasn't seen a WNBA player on a bag of Ruffles chips or nothing.
A Wheaties box, huh?
We can't get a Wheaties box going, huh?
I'm gonna let Coach Mack
You know,
answer
it
first.
I'm
Ladies first.
so I'm just thinking about when the G League started, when the WNBA started. WNBA started around 97. Yeah, I think Houston Coming was the first team to the WNBA championship. That was my team. So WNBA started in 1997. G League started in 2017. That's a 10-year difference. And yet the salary for the WNBA is still below par. Yet G League got an increase in only a matter of a year. And they're actually, trying to rally or basically petition for them to at least get a salary to $100,000. I'm just interested to see how fast will that, because I know it's going to happen, but I'm just
Hmm.
interested to see how fast will that happen compared to what it's taking for the WNBA to just get, I mean, just basic needs. Once before, I talked about on the show how the WNBA are just now being able to have like paid leave, maternity leave
Mm.
for women that can't help but have babies. It's not like, they can pass this off to men and that's it. No, like
I don't want it.
this is what I'm created to do is to birth a child. And you mean to tell me I can't have any type of, pay leave? And I'm thinking about Skylar Diggins. I love her. Name a
Oh my
child after her.
goodness.
And what she's going through at the moment, mainly because she wanted to take the time off after having her child, and what she's having to go through. She doesn't even know if, where she's going to be for next season or anything such as that. So it's those type of conditions that really concern me a
Hmm.
lot when it comes to men sport and women's sport in general.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Ron, you got anything to
Well,
chime in?
let's look at the women. Look, I'm all for women, getting more money. But one thing I forgot to add is that the amount of games that the women's play. They play 34, 35 games in the season. They'll wind up playing 70 games at the end of playoffs. Okay. On the other hand, you look at the guys. They play 82 games, and they'll probably wind up playing 110, 120 games at the end of the playoffs. So that's another thing. That you have to look at is the wear and tear on your body during the season, and I'm not saying it for us. I'm saying it for the NBA. As far as looking at it from a business standpoint point of view, you guys are not playing these many games, and you guys don't have this, and you guys don't have that. So that's what they give you that justification of why the women are getting paid more than the guys. But still, in all, the feeder system for the NCAA women are getting paid more. And they're not, playing, 60 and 70 games.
Mm-mm,
They playing like maybe 40, 45, no more than 50 games in a season if they
mm-hmm,
are in the playoffs. So right then and there, that kind of knocks that subject, to the side, saying like, hey, you can't say that because these people are making 1.7 and $750,000 more than a WNBA player. So my point is, the women are going to get theirs. It's going to come. Stay at it, women. Collective bargaining. Stay at it. WNPA. Stay at it, and sooner or later, uh, you're going to be able to be up there making that $1.7 million in the NBA. See them girls, WNBA girls, making that big change.
Yeah.
Cha-ching.
Oh, yeah. And we have a comment from Big Teddy Bear. This is an awesome show. Thank you to Angel for telling me about this awesome show. Well, thank you so much for tuning
Thank you.
in.
Thank
And
you.
as we are at the
thank
end,
you.
we just want to take the time. Oh, and from Barry, congratulations, Ray Ray, which is my family nickname, on
Hey, Ray Ray.
hosting. Good show, everyone.
I got a cousin named Ray Ray.
Oh yeah, that's me. And thank you, Dad. Way to get it done, baby girl. So we appreciate everyone's support, always tuning in and
Yes.
listening to the three of us go at it and talk about basketball. And so thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Broad Street South 102.9 The Game, where you can catch us every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will be here next Wednesday ready to talk. And I already have a few things that are wheels are turning that I have questions for you guys to talk about next week. So we want to thank you all again. And if you're tuning in on the website, please take the time where you can go and download the app to your phone, and you can always stay tuned in, and you don't need a laptop to listen to us talk. Thank you all
No.
so much for joining Talking Hoops. It has been a great evening. You all have a great one, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. See you guys next
Bye,
week. Bye bye.
guys.
Is that it? Not bad for